Okay.
Here we go. And so again, thank you for attending the November meeting of the North Texas Renewable Energy Group. In just a couple of minutes, we are going to hear from Paul and what Oncor is doing in the areas of energy efficiency. But before I do that introduction piece, we're going to get a little bit of the chapter meeting out of the business out of the way first. A couple of things going on at the board. I got a homework assignment and went out and looked at other chapters of the Texas Solar Energy Society. And again, we are a chapter member of theirs, but then again, we have renewable energy. So we're all over the map on, new technologies, electric vehicles, energy efficiency, all sorts of things fall under our unique interests. And one of the things I'll ramble about here are those kind of incentives and constraints that each group has that when they go out and, when I introduce Paul and Oncor, I'm going to do just 2 seconds in case everybody attending doesn't understand that, what a Texas transmission and delivery utility is about. So it's a little bit different. And that's getting back to one of my homework assignments from the board was to look at what our other chapter organizations around the state do. And 2 things surprised me, even though I go to these monthly meetings with them and they're very involved with the national groups, et cetera. We're the only chapter that doesn't have kind of I'll call it a utility focus or utility partner. And when you think of where they are, well, a couple of them is because they're almost public extensions of a municipal utility, like in San Antonio, you got the CPS, in Austin, you got the Austin Energy. Those folks generate electricity, move electricity, sell electricity, and are part of the city government or a private corporation that holds that monopoly specifically in that area. One of the other chapters is El Paso. Well, El Paso Electric is yet a different type of energy company where, again, they've got the generation, transmission, distribution, and retail, but it is not a municipally run utility. So it actually does business in Arizona, New Mexico. I think they even do business in Mexico. All their lines are their own lines, et cetera. A quick quiz. They are or are not part of the, they're not. I just answered my own question. If they're doing business in anywhere other than Texas, they couldn't possibly be part of the Texas Interconnect because we only have a small number of DC ties that go across those lines. Well, not true. There are privately owned transmission lines that move electricity across there that are not specifically ERCOT interconnected across state lines. And then we have Houston, the only remaining chapter I haven't alluded to, which, boy, we could get into how CenterPoint and Oncor are different, even though they're both TDUs in the state of Texas, both do business exclusively within the ERCOT interconnect. But being kind of a centralized one city show, even though it is a bigger footprint than that, is almost completely different than what Oncor does, servicing 40% of the land mass of the rest of Texas. So anyways, as I went out on this homework assignment of, well, what are we like compared to the other chapters? That was the first big surprise, is we're not really always interacting at every meeting and every place that we go out, et cetera, with a utility. The other that surprised us, or us, me, all of me, we're the only chapter that does a monthly public meeting. So one other chapter has a business meeting of 1 hour open to the public every week to show up every month, but they're just doing their business. We do a great job of bringing people in every month and, broadcasting out a lot of interesting things. And that's been, to me, one of the things I love about this organization is just the diversity of our interests and the ability of our teams to bring in the speakers for these. And so I've started talking with the other groups of, well, okay, if we're the only one that does that, how about we do it on behalf of all of you? And so although we didn't necessarily get to bring the other 5 groups in and let them be part of today's, it's a discussion that's going on. So just wanted to let you folks know that we're a little bit unique in terms of how the chapters of TXSES, Texas Solar Energy Society, operate. And I realized that going through that also gave me the opportunity to talk a little bit about our guests today and Oncor in general. And again, they being a transmission and distribution only utility, they don't make the energy. They frankly don't care. No, that's a rude statement. They are agnostic in terms of the type of energy that comes onto the network. It is their job to move it from place A to place B. Now, agnostic doesn't mean ignorant. So that's why I was saying don't care is inappropriate. Connecting a large central plant and doing all the studies and whether or not, you might even need transmission, et cetera, to put in one type versus interconnecting somebody's solar that they're putting on the rooftop, completely different things. Each has a different impact on the organization. Oncor has done, when let's go back 5-8 years ago, when the solar interconnect for residential changed from being oh my gosh, we've got the small generation and interconnect group over here, and they keep getting these phone calls, and each one had to be analyzed, and the paperwork was kind of looked more like what was supposed to handle commercial interconnects, et cetera. They've now got a system where it's probably amongst the best in the state in terms of go out there, fill out the form, and the approvals are usually, you can do strange things at your home, but if it's kind of a vanilla interconnect, this is like days or weeks at worst, as opposed to many months of study, which it was even just a few years ago. So again, Oncor is responsible, is a private company, and that's this whole thing of, I mentioned constraints and motivations. They're there to make money. Everything that they do has a cost. They have an obligation to serve. Their bosses are kind of a combination of the 400 and call it 420, 30 cities that they have. Sometimes it's equated the TDUs, since you only have one in an area, you don't go get to choose whose wires you're going to connect to your house. It's sometimes referred to as a monopoly, but it's not. Every couple of years, the charter comes up and each city has to decide, do we want to do something else? Do we want to run our own utility? Is there somebody else? Do we let a co-op do this? So it acts as an individual agent, but it's not quite the same thing as a monopoly. So, and then they've got their owners, the board, and Sempra being a private corporation owns the company. They have a responsibility to make money. So everything that they do, they have to show, well, this is how much it costs and this is what we're trying to do. Well, today we'll get to hear about some of the things that they do with other interests. I mentioned both the constraints, but then there's also the motivations, and they're not all just about money. They pretty much have to make some financial sense, but even then, there are exclusions every now and then, or people wouldn't do donations, etc. So anyways, we'll get back to that. I'll let I don't know how much of that you needed or whether I just took your first couple of slides. I'm sorry. I mentioned the agnosticism to interconnects. Another factoid I want to throw out before we get started and talk a little bit more of the business is Renewable Energy Group. That's at the end of our North Texas Renewable Energy Group. So far this year, China has interconnected 200 gigawatts additional new power, 100% of it renewable energy. In the United States, we have connected 20 gigawatts across the country this year, which is, pretty good. I mean, there was a while where it wasn't even increasing. It's kind of always been increasing in Texas. I don't even know how much Texas was of that 20 gigawatts of new energy, but it was a big chunk. Not only has Texas always been growing, but it's been growing fast.
What is that per count?
I don't know, divide by 25 million, 30 million, what do we got in the state? Or are you doing it for the country? Oh, per capita?
It's 200 gigawatts.
per capita.
That's true, and we're
Putting
like,
it per capita state.
well, okay,
They do have
that
10
difference
times
is
their
only about 3 to 4 though, per capita, not a factor of 10. Yeah, isn't 10.
It's not 10.
It's about closer, it's in between 3 and 4, factor of 3 and 4. So you're right, it's not a factor of 10. I could get into another hour-long soliloquy about the fact that it's, and I won't, I know. It's that most of that is to build things that are mechanically exported as a conscious decision that will, the United States purposefully put manufacturing out there as we put our industry elsewhere, and now we yell at them for having industry over there. It's like, what? Oh, don't get me started. So of the, let's go back to Texas, of the 12 gigawatts that Texas has been responsible for adding to the grid over the last 10 years, all of it has been renewables. There have been some private and small peaker plants put in, but the net for fossil fuel based has actually decreased as we've retired coal plants, changed oil plants over to gas plants, et cetera. So it's been a net decrease for the fossil fuels. All the 12 gigawatts of new energy on the balance of ERCOT has been by renewables. So that said, I'm sorry, I had a few things to say. We've also got a couple of business things to talk about. James, did you find what you wanted to mention?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you get up here? Can you walk around and get up here?
Do you want to go over the tables again?
They can hear you. The microphone's here. If you don't want to be seen, just talk. Well, you got to walk around. I'm sorry. You're under a microphone.
Okay, so anybody interested in energy efficiency building code? The State Energy Conservation Office, SECO, is taking comments on the 2024 IECC and 2024 IRC's energy efficiency chapter. And if you Google SECO or the State Office of SOS for comments on the energy efficiency building codes, you can find the there's an email address that you can send comments to. I'm trying to get a script from Sierra Club because there could be some opposition from some of the builders associations. And the state adoption of energy codes is like way behind. I think they're on the 2015 or something ridiculous. This would be a step forward. And the other one, I won't go into detail because it's not very much interest, but there's a UL standard that has to do with electric vehicle AC connections that's also taking comments. That one you can't participate in unless you're on the board, but it is an open process if anybody wants to see it. And I think that one's open through Monday. That's, I think, UL 1741. Thank you.
James, thanks. And Bill, do you want to tell us about upcoming events?
Okay, I can do that. Let me see.
Another thing that's open, it will be opening for comments. I forgot to mention this. The North Central Texas Council of Governments hosted the first meeting on power for data centers. And they had the city of Dallas, city of Irving, a number of other cities that are getting impacted pretty hard. In a first meeting, it was, I was able to attend that as well. They are going to be opening that up as a public forum for discussion. You know, all those numbers I threw around, the Texas interconnect queue itself, just Texas, has 200 gigawatts of interconnect planned in it that, you know, more than half of that won't come to fruition, but all those big numbers we were talking about for whole countries, Texas is looking at in its near future just for data centers. So we got all sorts of interesting stuff going on. Take it away, Bill.
Okay, let me see if I don't think I'm sharing this yet. Hold on. Okay, now everybody should see this. This shows the meetings we've had so far this year. You can see the kind of topics we've had. Here's the meeting we have right now with Paul Jacks. Next month, we have a meeting with Kevin Richardson. He's with the American Solar Grazing Association. This is combining solar power systems and agriculture. A lot of people have had interest in this in our group for the last few years. We finally have a speaker directly talking a little more about it. We had somebody talking about the solar ranching kind of business more generically, but I think this is going to be even more interesting on that. So that's the next one we have scheduled on December the 13th. Next year, we've got several people we've been talking with. The Texas Consumer Association, Sandy Haverlith, has a lot of interest in what's going on with energy prices in Texas, which is a pretty hot topic right now. And so she's going to be talking. We don't know what month yet, working with a company about the EV tractors used at warehouses. This is how they move tractor trailer trucks around warehouse areas, and they have EV versions of that. So we thought we'd talk about that. There's a company here in adjacent to Irving that does building efficiency management systems mainly for data centers. And they evidently have ways of reducing the energy use at a data center. That's a hot topic, the use of energy at data centers. So I thought it'd be interesting to find out about how data centers can use software and other tools to improve their efficiency. We've asked Dr. Chris Boyer at UT Arlington to talk about grid batteries. We don't have anything set up yet. Batteries that go on the grid. And Georgianne was trying to get the National Network for Ocean and Climate Change Interpretation group to talk to us. And right now, we don't have anything set up with that yet. So this is who we're working on right now. And I'm sure we'll have a couple of those scheduled here in January or February pretty soon. Thank you.
Great. And without further ado, thank you for going through the business a little bit and then Randy's soliloquy piece of the business. But we'll get on to Paul telling us about what Oncor, I was going to say our local, well, happens to be our local transmission and distribution, because again, all the way over just shy of El Paso, all the way over just shy of Arkansas, of the probably about 90% of Texas that falls within the ERCOT isolated grid and interconnect. I think the number somewhere around 40% of it is serviced by Oncor. And that's like, guys, up to 3.4 million meters servicing 14 million some odd people. Those were old numbers. Those were numbers when I retired from there a year ago. Paul's been there long enough that he'll be able to tell us about what the energy efficiency group within Oncor is up to right now, a little bit of its history and where it's going. Without further ado, take it away.
Thank you. First off, thank y'all for the invitation. By looking at your speaker list coming up, I don't know if I'm qualified to speak to you all this morning. Y'all, you have some really great speakers. We might have to join so I can hear on some of these things. Because as it was stated, I mean, I can go ahead and throw away this whole first slide.
Sorry,
it's already been talked about, but we do have 3.6 million.
There we go.
Homes or meters that we have in 408 communities and 98 counties. What this map shows you is the map of our distribution area. This is where we distribute power, but we also have transmission lines up in the panhandle. So our distribution network is this. If I was to give you a transmission map, it would have more blue up here in the panhandle. There's a lot of laws coming. You may have heard about the 765 kV sonnet that they're building around the state. So there's a lot of things changing and a lot of things that are happening in terms of growth. This last bullet, we're the highest growth area in the country, not just the state, in the country. The size of Dallas-Fort Worth and how it's expanding is rivaling other countries. So just to give you an idea of how fast and how big our service territory is. We go all the way out west, as far west as Midland, Odessa, even further, a little bit to the Permian Basin. We're down all the way to Round Rock. What this shows is kind of whole, but of course, there's co-ops, there's munis that are all interspersed in there. So my first question before we go, anybody here does not live in the Oncor service territory?
Several online.
There could be some.
Some people online may
I
not.
know we have a few co-ops, again,
Okay.
tucked in
So,
to the area.
Yep, it could, so that's why I asked that question, because some of the stuff, unfortunately, they can't participate in. They are part of this, our distribution network, so they can't participate because how it's working. We'll talk about all this later. You have to be an Oncor in the Oncor service territory to capitalize. All right. But before we get started, I want to show a quick video of some of the things we've done in energy efficiency, and then we'll continue on.
At Oncor, we are passionate about serving our customers, whether they're low-income families, rural communities, small businesses, or large corporations. Since 2003, Oncor has offered award-winning energy efficiency programs that have reached and benefited every segment of our customer base. From homes and small businesses in the 400 communities we serve, to multinational corporations that call Texas home, like American Airlines and AT&T, we're making a difference across the board.
Our programs and incentives provide real, measurable savings. Through Oncor's Home Energy Efficiency Program, customers who upgrade to energy-efficient HVAC units can save between 10 and 30% on their annual energy costs. On top of those long-term savings, these customers are eligible for incentives ranging from $300 to $3,500. That's money back in their pockets and ongoing savings for years to come. But it's not just about individual households. We help power the Texas economy by partnering with local companies that offer energy efficiency services. Participating contractors use Oncor's incentive payments to pass along savings to our customers as they make energy efficient upgrades to their homes and businesses. These upgrades not only lower energy costs, they also increase property value. Whether it's a low-income homeowner or a Fortune 500 company, our programs are designed to help everyone. Our impact goes far beyond just saving money and energy. Since 2020, Oncor has incentivized 1.3 billion kilowatt hours and 1 million kilowatts in energy savings. To put that in perspective, that's the equivalent of powering more than 187,000 homes for an entire year.
At the end of the day, our energy efficiency team is committed to helping all our customers take a load off Texas. We're not just providing energy solutions, we're creating a stronger, more sustainable future for our communities we serve and the state we call home.
I still hate that video. I don't like it. I'm sorry, because I see myself in it. You know how it is. Do I really sound like that? I apologize if that's how my voice sounds. So if you're in the Oncor service territory, you can take part. And I apologize. I didn't introduce Nathan. Nathan McMurray is one of my program managers. He's one of my business analysts that is going to be managing my solar program. I invited him, knowing your organization with your group. So he'll be managing the solar program, and he's new to Oncor. He's only been here a year. And for Oncor, that's like infant. He's an infant. I've been at Oncor 23 years, and I still feel like I'm new. If you're not in the 30s and 40s at Oncor, you're young. So as a person who lives in the Oncor service area, you can benefit from our programs right now. There are things that we do. We have 16 programs, half of which are in residential, that you can take advantage of. There are attic insulation, HVAC systems, air infiltration, and we also have a retail marketplace. So I want you to do me a favor and grab your phones. You got your phones? I want you to come over here and scan this QR code. We have an online marketplace where you can go and get, you can order from the online marketplace, or you can download coupons that can be used at Home Depot, Lowe's. Everybody have a smart thermostat? If you don't, look out for Black Friday. We'll be running specials in Black Friday to join along with the Black Friday sales, where you can get savings, instant savings, either at the register or with a coupon that will be able to benefit you. Pipe installation. There's markdowns on pipe installation. So if you want to insulate your pipes at home, you can get a discount. It's not a big discount, but it's a discount. And I don't know about you. Maybe you guys have enough money, but I don't. I have kids. And so any dollar I can save is going to benefit me in the long run. And so you can take a picture of this QR code. If you're part of service, Oncor service territory, you can pass that along to anybody, your family, your friends. They can all take advantage of it. But some of the things that we offer, like you see in this picture, we're in these stores. Look, you can see our signage on the things. Now, we're not in every Home Depot. We're not in every Lowe's. We're not in every Dollar Tree. We've selected the stores that are in the highest concentration of Oncor. We're not going to put a store down in Austin because we don't have any customers in Austin. But we try to keep our stores in high concentration areas. So that's why you might, at your local Home Depot or Lowe's, you might not see us there. And that's probably why. If we're not there and you think we should, hey, give me a shout. We're always adding stores, and we're always looking at what stores we can expand to. So that's not always a closed list. You'll hear me say this a lot. Our website is Take a Load Off Texas. TakeALoadOffTexas.com. If you go there, you can explore all our programs, all our things, even our residential products platform. All right. The next thing you can take advantage of, this is a solar group. So I had to add this slide. We offer solar incentives for both residential and commercial projects. Our residential projects have to range between 3 kW and 15 kW. It's about $500 a kW. So that's what we incentivize. And so the maximum incentive is $9,000. 500 times 15 is 9,000. But it must include battery storage for our residential. So we have a requirement that it includes battery storage. Now, on the commercial side, it goes from 10 kW to 450 kW. Max incentive is 120,000. The incentive cap is based on the load of the customer. So it's 75% of peak demand for the last 12 years. Why do we do that? We're trying to make sure we're helping people and businesses that need the help, not people that are coming in and trying to build solar farms. So we're not trying to incentivize solar farms. We're not trying to incentivize net generators. We're trying to help people with their solar systems that they put on their homes and at their businesses.
Yeah, so regarding the residential program, and I'm not going to make you walk backwards every year for the 20 years that solar's been of interest there. That program can change every year is all I wanted to mention. And we are getting to the point to where in January, it could have some tweaks. It's only had the battery component for
The last
2 years,
3
years.
Yeah. Yep.
And before that, the change before that was when you started incentivizing a formula based and looking at the west facing consumption as well. So again, it's trying to reduce both the impact on the grid, those megawatts that we like to talk about, and it's attuned to both the markets and technology. So it's changing every year.
Yep. So next year, the one thing that we're evaluating as homes get bigger, these solar systems, we might up the higher end. So it may not be 15, it may go up to 20, where we're studying that now. But as far as the incentive and the battery storage, that will still be the requirement for next year. But you're right, we're always changing, we're always constantly evaluating. Yes, sir.
Can you preview anything else?
Can you what?
Can you preview anything else?
What you mean by preview?
Oh, like you just did for the maybe it goes to 20.
We are not evaluating any changes on commercial. So it's just residential. We feel like 450 is a big system. and kind of our goal is to where we really want to help the smaller and businesses. We're not trying to help the businesses that can afford it, right? Because that's the idea of our incentives. Our incentives are there to help. It's not there to pay for, and it's not there, but it's hopefully there to help. And we try to design our incentives to keep you, especially on when we talk about heat. Heat is our home energy efficiency program. Our home energy efficiency program, when we incentivize HVAC units, we're trying to get you to go keep not by the base level, the bottom. We're trying to get you to upgrade and go to a higher efficient level. It's going to save you money, and it's going to impact you. It's going to have a positive impact on the longer run. Plus, it's going to be a more efficient system, so it's not going to be using as much electricity. So, here, speaking of which, here's our minimum efficiencies that we target. So it's not base level, but the minimum efficiency is a 14.3 on a split system, 13.4 on a single package. And then we have down here some more information in terms of low income. It's the same for both low income and our regular homeowners, right? Per the rule, we have to spend at least 10% of our budget to low income. We knock that out the park every year. We spend probably closer to 30%. So we really want to get the money and the dollars into the hands of the people that need it the most, that could benefit the most from it. Here's the caps that we have on our systems. We give about $3,500 for 5 tons for low income. And for heat, it's about $3,400. Here's some examples of some projects that we've done. We went from electric resistance to heat pump. Anybody got electric resistance heat at their homes? Good job. Congratulations. Every time I ask that question, there's at least one. And I always tell them, talk to me after this. Because I know your winter bill is hot. I know, you got?
It's wired to a solar.
Okay, so you're cheating the system. Yeah, you're not going. Yeah, no, so that makes sense. Electric resistance is by far people think, oh, in the summertime you use a lot of electricity. Electric resistance is the worst offender of electricity usage out there. And so we want to incentivize as many people to go to heat pumps. And with the technology improving so much on heat pumps, the old adage of, well, it's just going to switch back over to electric resistance. Heat pumps have gone into the negative temperatures now, where they won't cut over. I've seen some that go as low as -23, and they'll still be on the heat. So that technology is improving, and so we want to get as many heat pumps out there as we can. And so here's some examples. Central AC to Central AC. It was an 18 series. It went from 3 tons to 4 tons. They actually had to upgrade it, but there still was savings. That's how this works. We base our incentives on savings. Yes, sir.
Does it matter? I'm in the process of going to a heat pump right now, but from natural gas, not from a resistance heat. Would that qualify at all, or?
It can, but it all depend on what the calculation is from what you were before to what you are now. So that's where these savings come from. Savings is the base system, what it was before, what that energy usage was, and what the new usage will be.
I mentioned earlier that they're both motivations and constraints. It has always chaffed me, not about Oncor, but it has to be a net energy savings for that premise, that meter. And for example, that's why they can't get involved in electric vehicles. It's like, well, wait, no, that's a net increase. And it's like, no, it's a net energy decrease. And it's like, no, not from the meter's perspective. It's not. Nope. So the same thing here, going from gas to electric is as far as our PUCT. Yeah. If you want to talk to somebody, talk to the PUCT. They need to hear that message.
Yes, sir.
Those are lifetimes?
No, that is what the incentive was for that.
That's the incentive.
That's the incentive that we paid for that project. So we gave this customer $2,600 when they replaced that unit.
And do you have a number that unit was 10,000, 5,000, 20,000?
Oh.
Just a number.
Okay, no, so let's talk about that. All right,
What
because
percentage of the total cost?
I'm gonna come back and I'm going to answer that question after I explain how this all works.
Okay.
All right, so by this time in the presentation, hopefully you're asking, why is Oncor doing energy efficiency programs? And many of you already know, but some of you may not, because at the heart of energy efficiency is to get you to use less energy. It's to make the meter turn less. So while with Oncor as a utility who gets, even if we're a regulated utility, we have rate cases that give us a certain percentage, a certain amount of money off of a kWh that's used, a kilowatt hour. We get a certain percentage. Why would Oncor offer these programs? And it's a very simple answer. We have to. The PUC requires us to. We, by law, have to run these programs. And by law, these three laws are the ones that govern what we do. It sets our goal. We have a statutory goal that we run, that we have to accomplish every year. And if we don't, we will be penalized. We have our cost recovery factor, how we calculate the small percentage on your bill that we go to fund these programs. And then the last one is what reporting requirements are there to evaluate our programs. All programs for energy efficiency have to be cost effective. We have to have cost effective programs, meaning what we incentivize isn't more than what it costs for us to run the program. Now, how do we calculate incentives? Oh, let me show you this right here. The state. This is from the state, and you can come here to this. I put links in here, so when you share it out, you can go verify this information and go see it and dig even deeper. But electricity savings for the state is 602 gigawatts that we've saved. And you were talking about inside ERCOT and outside ERCOT. El Paso Electric is an outside of ERCOT utility, but there are CenterPoint, TNMP, AEP are all inside ERCOT. We have delivered 506 gigawatts of the 602 gigawatts. Yes, sir.
So out of curiosity, does the reducing energy use rate growth, the energy rate is still growing, it's just not growing as fast because it's growing efficient. Does the money you save as a company having to not pay
So the Oncor service territory is growing so fast, we would probably have to grow our energy efficiency program in orders of magnitude of like 10 to even keep up with the growth Oncor service territory is seeing. And then not just growth in terms of people, but in terms of energy usage. We have most of the gigawatts that are planned in Texas are in our service territory.
That's all gonna be data centers, AI.
There's a lot of data centers. Yep. They're in the hopper. I forget the number, but it's an order of like 20 gigawatts of confirmed, not speculative, on the books, being processed and all. Yeah, it's and so with that kind of growth, we're just a drop in the bucket compared to.
Now, that said, though, okay, yes, data centers and AI are the big gorilla offenders. But if you look at the Metroplex area, they talk about doubling, not because of data centers, but because of population growth. That's going to be, what is it, 2035, some ridiculous number where they say the population will be that much more. And distribution, the people, it costs a lot more to put distribution infrastructure out than it does. Well, per mile, the transmission is really expensive, but you have huge operational costs once you get into the distribution side as well. So I'm not sure where the balance is.
Yeah, it's not, but it's growth, right? So just to answer your question, the growth, the growth of the service territory in terms of usage, it has outpaced us But it does help to, we can do energy efficiency faster than you can build a power. And so it helps, it can help in the interim, but you have to have more long-term goals in order to be able to sustain that load. And so we can use less, but how it works is if you use less over in South Lake, it's not gonna really help me in North Dallas.
There was probably a bigger benefit with the energy company. Which probably knows everything.
When it was vertically integrated, yes.
Yeah,
It probably, and
It's cheaper
so.
to build cheaper to get people.
Yeah. We, I get jealous of a couple of things. I get jealous of the vertically integrated utilities. Because of the options that they have to do energy efficiency. They can give discounts, they can go to the customer directly. The way the state has designed it is we can only go to service providers, contractors. I can't give you a check physically. It has to go to the service provider. Now, the service provider, now to your question, the service provider can choose one or two ways to get you the money. They can pay down the cost and say in the invoice, here, you're gonna get a incentive from Oncor. It's gonna pay down your cost of that unit. And then you'll only be left with this. Some just say, here's the cost. When the incentive check comes, they write that 100% over to the customer. That process is a black box to us. We can't get into the interactions between a customer and the contractor. However, we do ask for invoices to make sure that it's being accounted for in some way. Now, in terms of percentage of project, it's probably the order of, for home, this is me speculating. But it's probably in terms of maybe 10 to 15%. Matter of fact, my boss, Gary Jones, just replaced his HVAC system, and it was probably around 15,000 to replace his whole system. And so this is so we ask service providers to provide us that information so we can kind of better fit our incentives. But we can only get, and what we try to ask for is, hey, what are you charging? Not, because we can go to suppliers and ask them what they charge, but that's not what the service provider charges. So we're trying to get that information. Some will participate, some will give us that information, some don't. Some play the game, some will mark up and still give you an incentive. We can't police it, and that's the trouble that we have. We can't. It's a black box to us, and we would like for, like I said, we want to help the customer. And so we would like for them to just turn it over 100% and not mark up their prices. But we can't control all of them. Yes, sir.
Are y'all considering investing in fuel cell technology for at home level? Because companies like Bloom Energy are producing 500 kW units at an affordable price, where that unit produces 30% more electricity per British thermal unit than your gas-fired plants. And they don't have to push it over transmission lines where they lose another 40%.
Yep.
That's what the data centers are all starting to put in. That's the reason Bloom Energy stock is blown through the ceiling.
Yep.
But they've been doing business with Delmarva Power, a bunch of American Electric Power for years, putting those spot units in. And the question is, could you support the development of home-based units?
That's a great question. Let me see. I just put this together for this audience, so I'm not sure what my next slide is, but I think, okay, good, it is. All right, so first question is, no, we can't today. Because this right here is the Texas Technical Reference Manual, the TRM. This is what governs what we can incentivize. This is how we get deemed savings, how we get the calculations. All our calculations for how we calculate savings is in here. What we can incentivize is in here. All right, but we are watching fuel cell technology. We're evaluating if we want to do some R&D with fuel cell technology. California has done it. And there's some other companies and other utilities that have kind of went down that road. So we're looking into it. But today we can't incentivize it from a deemed savings perspective, but we can put money to research. We have up to $400,000 we can do for R&D. So
I was more less curious about incentivization as whether or not you're going to use that technology to solve your grid.
I hope so. And that's all I can say. I'm not sure what the other side of the business does in terms of distribution and transmission. They may be further down the road in terms of studying and planning on how to use it.
But again, just to make sure you didn't understand, they would never own, they would, just like solar, they would incentivize people to reduce their premise load or their business load through an incentive program, because Oncor can't own generation.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
And it's even.
right, these deficits don't own the generation.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And then have a lower footprint.
And there's some companies that have their own generation, even today, that we interact with and we are connected to. So
Yes, that is diesel generation. Because we're at 24/7, so we couldn't afford to be down.
Yep, no, they, all kind of things. Yes, sir.
Even more specifically, Oncor can't own batteries, and it came up a few years ago.
Yep. It was a law that, we were trying to do neighborhood storage where we could put batteries into neighborhoods for reliability purposes. And we were not allowed to, because in essence, it was like owning generation. But we try to use it on the reliability side to try to help some of these neighborhoods. Because at the end of the day, Oncor does not want you to lose power. You know, as strange as that may sound, when the power goes out, we don't want your power to be out. And so we want your power to stay up. And so we try to do things that can keep your power on. Why? Because if the meter's not turning, we don't get our rate.
And phone calls.
And from a public perspective, you know, we don't want people to be without power. I mean, power is now, it's major, right? It's always been, but it's even more so. You know, throughout my career, I've seen it change where, you know, people don't want to see a blip, a surge. People are upset because their internet router is now reset, and they got to wait a couple of minutes for everything to come back online. All that stuff, we're a lot more sensitive to power outages and power delays and blips and all those kind of things. Yes, sir.
Well, I was gonna say the big advantage to batteries are not production at all, because someone has to make electricity to put in it. And it's the same electricity coming out, and it's the efficiency losses. The biggest advantage to batteries is it would stabilize the grid in a way that would actually reduce the big fluctuations in prices. And being cynical like I am, I would say the reason why y'all can't do batteries is because people would make money off of the emissions. It's in Australia, you know, the first big, you know, Tesla built the first really big battery system in the world in Australia, because one of their further states was having all sorts of, Victoria or whatever, was having all sorts of grid reliability problems. And so the government said, you build the battery, you get it done earlier, we'll give you a big bonus. And they got it done earlier, got the big bonus. Suddenly their grid is rock steady, because all the issues they had, they didn't have enough fast reacting peaker plants. And so every time it was tea time, chemicals come on, bam, you know, power grid, you know, so, and it just wasn't managed very well. The batteries took away all of that fluctuation. And the grid's very stable, just from that one back. It's like,
this is being recorded, so I can't say what I want to say.
He's in a different part of the company, though.
I am.
But before we go too far this way,
No,
yeah,
but it kind of plays in this bigger picture why we don't incentivize solar farms, why we don't incentivize battery farms, things like that, is because we're trying to help the individual customers, but then there's companies that have come in that want to be reps Like Tesla. Tesla is people don't realize, Tesla's a registered rep in the state of Texas. They don't give you access to their battery technology. They want to control it. They're trying to play that part. And so that's why I feel like sometimes the reps in that the competitive market is really what controls and prohibits us from being able to do things we want to do. All right, so the technical reference manual. Any other questions? I love it. I'd rather just sit here and answer questions. It also it gives us how we run our projects and what we can do for any given measure. So it is our Bible, if I can use that term. It is where we go and get the calculations and how to perform deemed measures, what mean all calculation based. But we also have the ability to do M&V measures, and that kind of goes into if we go down the fuel cell where we can do measurement and verification. Just takes longer. Deem we can pay out instantly. The M&V measures we have to go and measure and see the reduction over time, and then that's what we can incentivize.
What was the acronym you were using? MMV?
M&V, M and V, measurement and verification.
Okay, I didn't understand.
Yeah,
Measurement and verification.
Sorry, we have Oncor is an alphabet soup.
Oh, no.
We love our acronyms.
And that's only on the commercial and industrial side, I believe.
We can do it on. It's mostly okay. Let's put it like this. There's only so much you can do to a home, right? And all the major things you can do to a home are all in the technical the TRM. So everything that's new technologies and all those things is usually on the commercial side, and that's what we typically do. Okay. We mostly do M&V.
It's not restricted.
Well, we're not restricted to do. Yeah, we can do M&V on any project if we wanted to. Most people will elect not to because they'd rather get their money up front than waiting a year or waiting 6 months to be able to get it. All right, so we talked about this side, residential program. So we have home energy efficiency program is our base. Is our bread and butter, is our standard offer program. So is low income weatherization. That is based off the federal government's poverty line of if they fall below the poverty line, they can qualify for the low income weatherization. We have a tool that uses census data and all these other things so that contractors don't have to ask you how much money do you make based on census data, based on other national databases and things like that. We can determine if they're a low income customer or not. We have residential solar, we retail products, and then we also have a new homes construction where we incentivize. We're talking about the building codes. The building codes, based on the building codes, we're incentivizing builders to build zero ready homes or very low usage homes. And so we have a tier, and it's not a lot in terms of because it has to be above code, but if for a builder, it can add up. So if they're building 500 homes and we giving them $1,500 a home, it adds up. And so we're seeing more and more builders into that program. So it's going well. We have two different kind of programs. We have what's called standard offer, which is home energy efficiency and low income weatherization, but we also have what's called market transformation programs where we utilize third-party companies to come in and run these programs. So the new homes construction program is run by a company called TRC. On a commercial side, our commercial high efficiency food service is run by the same company, TRC. Reason why we bring in companies like that is because they have a specialty and they specialize and they have the relationships. So they'll run that in the commercial high energy, high efficiency. I always screw this up. We call it chef. So I'm not used to calling it, reading out the whole name. But if you look at CHEFS, it's chef, right? So our chef program is designed for restaurants, schools, hospitals, anybody that's changing out their equipment, if they're going from or upgrading their equipment, their ventilation system that uses electricity. If they're upgrading it, TRC manages that program for us. We also have rep smart thermostat where we incentivize and we give money to the reps for them distributing smart thermostat to the customers. So while you can always buy a smart thermostat directly from us, a rep could give you a smart thermostat too, the ones that participate in our program. Not all of the reps participate, but if they did, they could give you a smart thermostat. And then our strategic energy management program is an MTP, market transformation program. It's run by a company called Leidos. Leidos, what they do is they come in to a business and they do what they call a treasure hunt. It's basically an audit of the facility and say, you can save energy here, here, and here. They come up with a wish list of items. They work with the company to develop these projects. We even have, they could even issue a staffing grant to help with them doing these projects. And then this is like a long-term relationship of having true savings along multiple projects for these larger manufacturing facilities. And those projects usually turn into, I mean, those programs, those companies usually turn into multiple projects over the years. So it's not, so they'll develop the capital campaign and say, if you spend this, you can save this. And so they go to the company and they work with those companies to help save energy. And so, and with that, I like to say this, anything that can save energy, I want to incentivize. I want to be able to incentivize and give money for it. And so there's new technologies that's always coming out. And we'll work with companies to try to get either that into our TRM, or we do an M&V, and then later it gets added to the TRM. For instance, Strategic Energy Management, SEM, did a project when we first brought them in with a company that had capacitor air leaks all across their manufacturing plant. They were just capacitor air leaking everywhere. They did a study, an engineering study, to determine what the savings were for fixing all those capacitor air leaks. And we were able to pay them. They worked with the state, with the PUC, and with our statewide evaluator. Our statewide evaluator is Tetra Tech, to make sure that the calculations made sense, everything worked out, the engineering was good, and we were able to pay out on that project. Now it has now become part of the TRM, and it's now a deemed measure where we can pay it out automatically if they go and do that work. So that's kind of how the life cycle of how M&V can become a deemed measure. This year, as I was alluded to earlier, we have $55 million in incentive dollars that we give out. We are almost out of money, but it's November, so we try to make sure saving money doesn't do us any help. We have to hit our goals, our statutory goals. We have a KW goal and we have a KWH goal. And so $55 million was this year's budget. Next year's budget is going up. We're going to be spending $64 million. The year after that, we're projecting we're probably going to be up into the 70, 71. So we're constantly putting more money into these projects. One, as you all aware, technology does not stand still. But the problem is what used to be new technology then becomes baseline. Give you a good example. In this room, there's LEDs. But 5 years ago, that wasn't the baseline. LED was not the baseline. Incandescent bulbs were the baseline. When they switched over to LED, that took a major saving. Lighting is the best savings. It's the cheapest form of savings that you can get. But on the residential side, it basically killed lighting for residential. But on the commercial side, these businesses still have fluorescents. They still have, I mean, you can probably walk around this building and find some fluorescent light fixtures. On the commercial side, so these are fluorescents actually. So right here, and we work with Dallas. Dallas College is actually one of our in our SEM program. So we're working with Dallas College. Dallas College is doing a lot of projects in all their campuses to upgrade their HVAC, upgrade their lighting. Parking lot lights, same thing. Replacing those high pressure sodium bulbs with LED fixtures saves a lot of money. And on the commercial side, it's a lot more technical. So there's a lot more factors that go into the building usage, the time of use, how often is it used? Is it a 3-shift organization of manufacturing, or is it just a 2-shift? All those things play into the savings that we calculate, and it's all coming out of that TRM.
So in the older days, when LEDs were much more expensive, if I remember correctly, the main incentive for a business to convert over to LED wasn't to save electricity. It was to save labor to keep replacing bulbs. If you get 10 times the life out of an LED bulb, that meant you could reduce your labor LED bulbs to 90%.
Yep.
But today, is it since incandescents are mostly going away, even in shop setups, they're using sodium, stuff like that. Is it more about the energy and less about the labor savings?
It's still both. I would argue it's still both. If you're replacing it with a LED fixture, those LED fixtures last longer, so you don't have the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance. So that's the savings. But the difference, how we calculate, see, that's an unintended benefit of replacing the LED. That's not where our incentive comes into play. Our incentive is just purely savings.
Yeah.
So that 100-watt bulb now is replaced by a 7-watt bulb. That savings is what, or no, it's 13 is probably the equivalent. That savings there is what we use to calculate how we incentivize. And so our goal is to look at what the baseline or what the old technology was, what the new technology, and the savings, and that's how we calculate that's how we calculate what our incentive is going to be. So the bigger the savings, of course, the bigger the incentive. The lower the savings, the smaller the incentive. And it's all, we do that because we have to remain cost effective.
I have a question on the slide. Residential load management.
You caught that. You saw me skip over those. Load management is not an energy efficiency program in and of itself. What load management is we incentivize aggregators on the residential side, commercial companies and aggregators on the commercial side to shed load if we're called upon them. So
it's load share.
It's load sharing. Yeah, it's curtailment. We ask them, they bid in and say we can curtail a megawatt. And we say, okay, good. We pay $30, $35 a kW. And so on the commercial side and the residential, we did something new this year. So for this season for our winter load management, we did a bidding system. So we asked companies, here, tell us what you can shed and tell us what your bid and how much you will accept for a kW shed. So it could range from 30, and the max was $35. So the highest you could bid is 35 a kW. Everybody else came in below 35. And the reason we did that is because what it costs one company to curtail a kW, it might be less than what it costs another company. And as long as they say, as long as I can get this back from the curtailment, I'm good. And a lot of these companies have designed it where it doesn't even affect their business. They manage it in a way where it doesn't affect their normal operations. They'll shut down a boiler or something. But they learn how to do these things. So what we do is they're on standby ready if there's an EEA level 2 event. The EEA level 2 is when the state, the PUC says, no, ERCOT says, it's mandatory load shedding. And so they come to the utilities, we will call on these customers to shed load. But before that, every year we do a test event. We call them, they don't know when it's gonna happen, but we say, hey, it's a 3-hour event. We need you to shed load like it's a real event. And based on how they perform for the test event is how we pay them. And it's the same way with the residential. The residential is a little different because the aggregators are controlling people's thermostats and turning the thermostats down and up. And
is that the only thing they do?
What?
And residential is turning thermostats?
That I know of. We don't know. I don't know of any backup generator people who are aggregating people who have backup generation.
I was thinking better.
For right now, I don't know of anybody that uses
Yeah,
the battery
see,
technology.
There was the battery, there was the residential battery engagement through the. I forget the 5-letter acronym, but bottom line is. ERCOT is under its second pilot program that does include residential batteries, but that's paid for by ERCOT out of that's not,
DRS.
yeah. It's like the DRS program, but it's another ancillary.
And so with batteries, I'll tell you this is where Tesla doesn't like to play nice, because a lot of those backup batteries that we incentivize on the commercial, the solar, Tesla won't give anybody access to the technology. So no, if anybody's gonna share it, it would have to be Tesla.
And they were one, by the way, on the first Texas pilot, they were one of the only 2 companies that got to engage with residential assets because they could control their own batteries.
Yeah.
And so I think what is being addressed here is the regulatory side of grant response.
Yes.
Whatever. On the commercial side, there are companies that are offering various levels of either it's a one-time payment or a monthly thing, or access to, and in the case of I don't know if it's supposed to name names, but it's the one that looks like a C3 with tentacles. They have one for thermostats, they have one for EV chargers, and they have one for batteries, but they can only offer it with systems that they can communicate with, and so it's kind of limited. And like you mentioned, Tesla is one of the ones that's difficult for outside aggregators.
Yeah, and so I mean, for the most part, the residential load management is purely aggregators who are their reps participated in the residential load management because they, as you see before, they're distributing thermostats, so they have to be able to control them. And so you as a customer, me as a customer, has to turn over control. And so it's very clear that we don't control anybody's thermostat. I want to make sure everybody hears me when I say that. We don't control anybody's thermostat. That is either a rep or an aggregator that's doing that. We just pay based on the performance that they do. We pay an incentive for that.
I have Wallbox. 12% discount.
Wallbox is one of the, we actually give a discount for an EV charger through Wallbox. So it's not a lot because again, EVs they generate. That's where the state, other states is the other thing I'm jealous about. Other states have other factors that play into their energy efficiency. Carbon reduction is one. Carbon reduction is not playing in Texas. You can't even bring carbon reduction up in Texas. That is dead on arrival. But other states look at carbon reduction, and that's where EVs would play a bigger part. Yes, sir.
So I have a solar system with batteries in it. So is there anything that Oncor could incentivize me to sell back to the grid? I already sell back to the grid, okay, through my REP. But right now, it's a fixed price, which is less than the price I buy for. I mean, they discounted price. But right now, there's no time of day. In other words, there could be a horrible weather emergency, and there's zero difference in how I'm incentivized to pay back to the, sell back to the grid. If there was something that it was easy for, an individual that had their own system that would allow us to help the grid, like from a battery. But right now, there's nothing. I get zero advantage. And so it'd be nice if there was some way of doing that. There needs to be a signal and equipment that can handle it to do that. But there also need to be economic advantages, or why in the world would I run with doing all that?
That's the VPP, that's the virtual power plant. You sign up with somebody who has the contract with Oncor then.
Yeah, that's the thing is right now, your only path is through your rep or an aggregator. which even as an aggregator, you can't do it independently of your rep, I don't think. So.
Yeah, there's not, to answer your first question, there's nothing we could do in
Directly.
that aspect.
So the REP might be able to do something.
That it would have to be on the what we call the competitive side. We couldn't get in, we can't get into competitive services. Cause ideally what could happen, and I'm not saying it would, but they could bid for the use of your stuff. They could come to you, and so that's all competitive.
And it gets, we could get these guys here for hours explaining that you put your toe in that water of looking like you're influencing the competitive market. And for Oncor, for example, to declare in advance of an EEA2 or even at an EEA2, what might look to be a efficiency action versus a market influencing action is just a place they don't need to go. They don't have the authority, but they'll get called out. And so that's that they kind of have to stay at arm's length. Yeah.
Because some of the competitive people are making big money when those events are happening.
Yeah.
When the price goes crazy.
They only make their money, some of them.
I mean, there's been, you all aware, that the reason why some laws and some restrictions are in place is because of your Enrons, who was doing that very thing, playing that market, making the price go up before they would buy and sell, all that stuff. Any other questions? All right, so give you some commercial HVAC examples. I know this is kind of solar, but I like to just kind of give you put dollars to projects. New elementary school, we installed 90 rooftop units. Savings was about 112,000 kWh. We incentivized $20,000 to that project. You come over here in $270,000 for one centrifugal water cooled chiller at 2,975 tons. They replaced it. They installed one. The savings there was 2 million kWh, and we gave them $270,000 for that project. Large office building, they installed 24 water cooled DX units, 75 tons, $1 million over close to 1,200 kWh. $1,200,000 kWh, $190,000. So this is how, when we in the video we talk about we're powering the economy. We're giving this incentives to these companies. Their power usage is going down, their demand usage is going down. And if you own a business or have a company or have any kind of commercial bill, then every commercial customer cares about their demand charges. The demand charges are what hurts a lot of smaller businesses, and by doing these things, it can help to reduce the demand. We also have some lighting retrofit projects. We did parking lot light and site LED lighting retrofit. We installed LED pole and wall packs to replace 1,000 watt and 400 watt metal halides. We gave that project $35,000. We installed VFD. I gotta say we. The service provider installed 50 horsepower VFDs on fan motors. We gave that project $151,000. At a college university, that might be this one. We gave $18,000 for a project. Just installing VFDs on 360 horsepower motors. Yes, variable frequency drive. So it throttles, it goes up and down. So it makes the motor. It's a way of now it's standard, but before it's a way of making a motor run more efficient. And you install it on the front end of a right before the motor.
That's the key to most modern air conditioner efficiency.
Yep, it's the VFD. Yeah, that's why it's not standard, you know, and so a lot of new equipment, it already has VFDs involved, a lot of pumps, a lot of motors already have VFDs.
Refrigerant,
Yeah, yeah, refrigerators have it, it's part of it,
modern refrigerator.
yeah. It's a great technology, it's a very simple measure for us too. And we love VFDs because it's simple, the documentation and the requirement for it is easy. Cause you know, like any good government program, we got our responsibility in terms of documentation that we have to provide to validate and verify that all of our projects are truly cost effective and that what's being installed was installed. So Tetra Tech, our third party statewide evaluator, they come in and they pull projects of ours and they look at if we have all the necessary documentation, all the necessary pictures, validation, any inspections that we do, it's all in those projects. So we're regulated and we're evaluated every year. And then the last example is multifamily. We do a lot of work in multifamily. And because multifamily is probably one place where you can get a lot of electric resistant heat units. Some landlords don't care, some do. And this program there's a lot of money that goes into our multifamily program because we're able to replace 266 units, 102 units, 167 units. And the average incentive all varies because of how the program is run. But it gives good savings, $500,000 here, 700,000 there. We even incentivized a greenhouse. And that greenhouse incentive for lighting was over $1 million. Wow. Because of the savings of what they put in as opposed to what they could have put in. And that's how it works, the savings. We care about these things right here. We care, go back, KWH and KW savings. That's what we care about. We want to incentivize as much load leaving the grid as possible. Yes, sir.
So on those multifamily things, those were, each individual unit had their separate power bill, right?
It depends. So like this one, this was a chiller conversion to mini splits. There are some master metered apartment complexes where same thing, where it's one bill because it's and that how that works really. It's still a multifamily. It just all changes what it gets charged to. A master metered apartment complex, we consider commercial. Mm-hmm. But a individually metered apartment complex, those are all residential.
So you're paying the company that owns the apartment system, apartment house, you're paying them the incentive to install the heat pumps. The actual improvement in the long-term energy savings comes to the individual tenant in their bill. So they can then advertise, we've got lower cost energy bills for our apartment house, and they get money to do it. So that's kind of a
it's a win-win. It's truly a win-win, right? And that's
right, exactly. Some of the people in some apartments, their energy bills can be very high in some of the small apartments.
I've had a this doesn't make sense. I don't know why my bill was so high. And what happened was the electric strip heat got stuck. And they were paying almost double the next apartment. And it was because of that unit. And it's like they don't maintain the unit, so they had to fight with the apartment complex. But what ended up happening was one of the strip heat got stuck and just
that was
stayed
resistance heating, right?
Yes.
And that's lots of dollars.
Electric resistance heat is horrible. Horrible. I will say it again. We want to replace every electric resistant heat unit out there if we can. And it gives the best incentive. The biggest incentives in our home energy efficiency come from electric resistance heat. When we replace those and go to a heat. All right, but I can spend all my money in the Metroplex, we don't want to, we add a 15% adder for all the places outside these 5 counties. Dallas, Tarrant, Rockwall, Denton, Collin. That's for commercial. For residential, we add in Ellis and there's one more. It's 7. I always forget the 7th one. So there's 7 counties, and then the idea is that we're trying to get more of our money to our non-metro areas. And because they're paying into this EECRF just like everybody else is. We want everybody to benefit, and the only way we found that we can do it, put our money where our mouth is, and allow that money to go to the non-metro areas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the end. You know anybody that's interested? Maybe you're interested. Maybe you have a company. They can scan this QR code. You can take a picture of it and send it to somebody you know that might have an HVAC company. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for HVAC contractors, installation contractors, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, motors and VFD installers, window installers. We incentivize windows if they're Energy Star windows. We remodeling companies, energy audit companies. We do radiant barrier roof. We have incentives for radiant barrier roofs. So, like I said, the only way we grow and the only way we can do more is by having more service providers. We're limited because we can't go directly to the customer. I have to have these service providers in my program in order for me to be able to send them incentives. Yes, sir.
So this only applies to rate.
We do new construction as well.
Not new construction, new install. I have still 55, but it's nice. So if I was to put in a mini split system, would there be any incentive or something like that?
We would treat it as new construction. So yes, we would just treat it as new construction. We could treat it that way. But yes, we could. We can incentivize it. At the very least, we can incentivize it as a new construction project because there was nothing there before, and we're putting something there now. If there is something, if you are using something.
You're switching from a window air conditioner to a central? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, right now, got it out. All the interior was insulated in that room. It's got a So, because I read about how people dealt with heating during the Great Depression, they could only afford to buy enough fuel.
Yep.
And so that's what they all did. So I got inspired by that. So I've got a very well insulated, I increased the wall thickness.
Yep.
And walls. But just that one room. But the rest of the house runs to. I have an actual space heater I'll use in the rest of the house just to keep the pipes from freezing. And I'm comfortable. I mean, if the thermostat's reading 35, I'm in shorts, t-shirt, and socks. I'm fine. And in the summertime, it gets up to maybe the high 90s in some parts of the house, which again, I'm comfortable with. But eventually, I want to put
You could be married to my wife. Congratulations.
That's good.
It's plugged directly into one of the heater elements on the water heater. So it's using DC to heat the element. And so I got infinite hot water, haven't had to connect hot water to the grid in years. And then during the winter time, I'll switch back and forth. I've got a fan-driven space pipe heater that I'll connect the solar panels directly to the heating element. And I can get 800, 900 watts of heat out of it as long as the sun is shining. So I actually had to throttle that because otherwise we'll roast the room. But again, it's not connected to the grid. That's why I was telling you earlier. But the new efficiency mini splits.
Yeah,
just more convenient.
At the very least, we can give you a new construction. It won't be a lot, but it'll be something. Because in our eyes, it's new construction. Nothing there now. And you'll be putting a new a system in. And if you do a mini split, that's great because mini splits have really good returns. So,
And they're like, Sears of like the mid-20s, which I.
Yeah.
I
and you
did,
can control where you put them. That's a
speaking of
nice
hot
thing.
water, I did notice you did list hot water heat pumps. And a lot of people don't realize that resistance hot water heater really uses up a lot of energy. So it's one
Yeah,
of the.
glad you noticed
items.
that. So in our retail products, we give a $500 coupon for heat pump water heaters, which is new technology. Now, there's some caveats around heat pump water heaters. They're not the same as your electric resistance water heaters. So they have to be ventilated
Mhm.
and they have to be in a special place. You can't just throw them in the attic like my water heater is. I don't know why you would put a water heater in the upstairs attic. It's just asking for a water leak. But neither here nor there. But heat pump water heaters are a great value. And then there are some companies, going back to load management, that are trying to utilize heat pump water heaters as a way of demand reduction.
Right, because you can
Low
control
management.
you can control easily when they run.
Yep.
And you heat up the water when the energy is cheap and readily available, and then you turn it off and don't have to run them.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Isn't that even true for resistance water heaters?
yes, but they're just so less efficient
Yeah.
anyway that it's
When
crazy.
prices go negative on the grid,
It's all about what you're willing to, what control you're willing to give up, right? And allow other people to access. But people have designed it, like I know in some states where it's vertically integrated utilities. You know, they'll have energy efficiency, they'll give you an incentive for solar and then you'll get put on time of use. And so during the day, when the sun is shining, you're not using the electricity off the grid, but when the sun goes down, you might have to switch over to the grid and they'll charge you less for doing, so they have a lot more economic models that they can do and play with and incentivize more so than just incentive dollars. All we have is incentives.
Mhm.
All we can do is incentive, and not just incentive to service providers. I gotta say that again, because I can't give you a check directly. If you install the greatest HVAC system, I cannot pay you directly. I have to go through a service provider. And that service provider has to be in my program. I don't care who, going back to your term, agnostic, I am service provider agnostic. If you have your favorite HVAC contractor and he's not a part of my program, I want him part of my program because I don't care. The more service providers I have, the more my money gets out to the people who need it.
Yes, what I don't see on that list is solar installers.
Yeah, because solar installers are shiesty. Shady. I spend more of my time on issues with solar installers than any other in all of my other programs.
I want to install a solar unit. What are you gonna do?
You go on our website, take a load off Texas. We have a list of service providers that are already on there. But
They're solar installers.
Yeah, there are so.
Just tell people.
Yeah.
The good people.
And what I would have you do, I would say, hey, contact Nathan. And Nathan's gonna hold your hand through that process so you don't get taken advantage of because of these solar installers sell you a bag of goods and we get called, wait a minute. They told me I was gonna be able to sell my stuff back to the grid. Or wait a minute, I can do this, and I wasn't gonna have a bill. And they end up doing, yes, sir.
Sun up and sun down.
And see,
His number on. Really?
So if y'all don't mind, what I'm gonna do, because I did, in this presentation, I do not have contact information. But what I'll do is, when they send this presentation out, I'm gonna have a couple of slides with contact information for all our programs. so that you can contact any one of my program managers directly. But yeah, we restrict on solar, we have restrictions on what direction is the solar panels facing? What's the azimuth angle? What's all we take all of that into account because you all know what direction it is determines how much it produces, and so that's how we also determine our savings from that, and we use PV watts to do that.
That was, okay, that's related to a question I wasn't gonna ask.
Go ahead. Hold on, yeah.
Well, I have a I go there, take my main batteries. Hook them up my 100 watts worth of solar panels that fall up in the back of my car. And I'm running the cabin, I can't leave it there, it's remote, people break in, steal stuff. So I bring it all the way back to Dallas, in my garage, my electricity goes out. I can get those batteries out, but TXU will not let me hook up the house, so I'm sitting there with battery cables, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
Running them in to run my refrigerator and think, why is that?
So it's a safety issue on our side. And you could, if you go through the interconnection process, we just need to know about it, and we have to change out the meter to put a different meter on that house, a meter that won't allow it to flow back onto the net on the grid. Right. Because when the power is out, a lineman goes out there, he's assuming and making an assumption that there's no power on this, even though they do checks, they might miss that this house is back feeding on, and that could cause serious hurt.
Actually, unless I'm mistaken here. Right intent, but I don't think that it works that way. You at the house have the responsibility, yes, you have to change out the meter.
Right.
But the meter isn't the point of control for the backflow.
Yeah.
The homeowner has to
Yes, it has to install
and
it.
have
You're right. I'm
certified
sorry, I apologize.
ATX.
Oh,
So whether, the automatic, a transfer switch.
It's a transfer switch.
Electricity can never go in the other direction. Oncor's special meter, we know that it's happening, but again, it's not their responsibility. Part of you going to their interconnection, install your batteries. There's another set of requirements, though, that you go to the Oncor Interconnect group, and they look at the equipment that you've installed, not just the battery, but the thing says, oh, and if the power goes out on the grid, you will also stop that point of connection. So that there's no power going. Yeah.
It's an automatic system that keeps the power.
It recognizes.
Well, you're not powering the grid.
So the way the grid is set up, they got the big prime lines at the top, like maybe 17,000 volts, and then they connect to the transformers that's going to poles in the houses, and that drops it down to 240. But those transformers are not one directional. So if you put 240 into one of those transformers, you'll get 17,000 out on the other side. So if the grid is down, so there's no power being put on the grid. I'm only putting an amp or two, hardly any from a small battery or generator. They're on to the grid, but if it gets to that transformer, then it's suddenly becomes very lethal. So if you clean the grid and your batteries, there's gonna be an inverter. The inverter is what runs your stuff when it's on grid. But that inverter needs to be certified for use to connect to the grid and includes safety features so that, because the grid doesn't know where the power is. There's power or there's not.
So how do I get one of them?
The inverter is what you would need. That's what you need.
So.
There's a lot of.
You can talk to a solar company, you can talk to an electrician. I mean, at that point.
Well, most electric, I'm gonna think I'm crazy.
No. You gotta talk to somebody who's familiar with solar systems and
Right,
battery
yeah.
systems.
Yeah, no, it's there's good electricians and specifically there's electricians that just deal with home stuff. They don't know about solar systems.
There's actually another end around where it's never connected to the grid. If you do it manually. You can have a manual transfer switch, in which case it doesn't ever parallel with the grid. You don't need Oncor's permission, but your electrician needs to set it up to where the power's gone out, your house is dead. There's a way you can walk over, change some switches,
It's those
and now install your battery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or selected circuits in your house.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
like.
yeah.
So what you
Not
would,
enough.
Oh, that would be-
Right,
Yeah,
so
you
if
would-
just wanna run a refrigerator, you can have a transfer switch next to your service panel, if grid goes down, you go out there, you have to flip the switch, and flip the switch, and boom.
They-
all the
Right.
circuits are connected.
they have batteries now that you can buy online that have those transfer switches built into them. And Anchor, I know, has one that is built into, but it was just my own personal research that. So there are systems that they're getting where you can even put panels with them. Too, and charge that battery, and the battery will control the switch.
There's a whole industry that's being, it's being developed, and a lot of manufacturers that are working on it. And look up balcony solar in the case of solar, but it's basically, some people call it permissionless DERs, so the technology would be such that it's designed so it can't export to the grid, and I think what he's talking about, you can buy portable batteries. So far, the problem right now is getting UL standards, if you want to plug anything into your home. Verified somehow, or some standard certain. So there's people working on it, and hopefully in a few years on it.
And that's,
But he wants to be able to run his refrigerator when the grid fails. To do that, you've got to have a disconnect.
there's a lot of.
It's got to be a disconnect of some kind.
I would encourage you to talk to somebody that's done it, one, but there's multiple ways to skin that cat. You can do a sub panel that's not connected, where it, just like they said, when the power is out, you just flip a switch, a physical switch, and it'll throw it over.
Right.
And that's connected to your battery, to your solar system and all that. And then it just powers that, whatever circuits you put on that sub panel. Or I should say sub panel, but it's because it's an independent panel. It's just not.
They don't use all systems. Like staff. I do that, so I'm all.
Yeah.
But
Right.
what I think about a state, state will leave them there.
We better talk about that offline, because we're kind of wasting the whole meeting. Yeah, that's. okay.
I'm done, actually, so here's the insurance requirements that we have for our service providers. If you know anybody that wants to be a part of our program, the more the merrier. We need service providers for all of our industries.
What
But
is this insurance thing?
For
the service provider. So
if you go out to take a load off, all the people who are listed there to provide the services have met these conditions.
yeah,
The guy falls off the roof.
Oh, this is the coverage then.
that the service provider, yes. License and body, yes.
Yeah.
And it just depends on, not every industry has licenses. So there are some service providers that don't have license because the industry doesn't necessarily require it. HVAC does. There's some, you have to have a certain license to install a plumbing license and different things. So it's all individual by the program that we have. We have 12. So every service provider has to tell us, what are you gonna do? And then that's how we evaluate if they qualify for our program. And then the last one is take a load off Texas. Everything we've talked about, more than you would care to ever know about energy efficiency is out there. We have all kind of manuals, calculators that can calculate on the commercial side, HVAC. So there is a lot of resources out there on Take a Load Off Texas. Yes, sir.
I was just looking at the take a load off, because I was curious for like low to moderate income folks. One thing that could help them in the kitchen would be like an induction hot plate, as opposed to using a resistance cooktop. But there are no induction hot plates or anything like that.
It's that would have been like a chef, or even we're constantly, like he made the comment, we're constantly evaluating what new technologies or what things we can put into the retail marketplace for RPP, or what can we incentivize. But yes, I would. The technology is moving so fast. It's like the UL standards, right? Technology is moving so fast. We're a lot of times slow to adopt and slow to deal. And a lot of times, well, like lighting, for instance, the lighting that people put in has to be DLC certified. We have to go off certifications and standards because that's how we calculate the savings. It has to use what it says it's going to use. And so DLC certified. What else? You saw with Windows, Energy Star. And who knows, next year Energy Star may be gone. It barely made it this year, right? And so we're constantly bringing on, taking off. And so we're always evaluating, but we try to keep our programs, the standard programs, pretty standard, where any common appliance, any common thing that's used in a home or in a business, we're incentivized. So I hope that answered your question, but yeah, it's not on there now, but hopefully we can get it added to our retail marketplace.
So it sounds like it might be available for commercial
No,
in the shift program? No?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. There's a list, a qualified products list, a QPL that, and I don't,
It still goes back to the regulations,
Yeah.
and I think.
It's long.
Boston has to have seen it first.
They have to give us, they have to give us the green light to use some new technologies a lot of times. And we're that's the partnership that we have with them. We're constantly bringing them, hey, we want to use this. Here's the studies, here's the engineering behind it, here's the calculations. We think this will work. And before we even incentivize the project, we've worked through all of that before, because we don't want to pay out on something and they come back and say, nope, that's not gonna qualify.
Your report card, your KWH report card at the end of the year.
Our cost bit, I mean, we're paying for something that we don't get the claim savings for. So that hurts our benefit cost ratio. Which determines if we're cost effective. Any other questions? All right, so that was it. I'm gonna send another slide deck out, and I'm gonna have contact lists on that. So when y'all, I'll send it to you. A PDF, and it'll have contact lists of all the programs. It'll have all the same things you've seen here, and I'll probably throw some more stuff into the appendix. By far, you guys are the most knowledgeable group I've ever spoken in front of. And so it was a pleasure, because a lot of people are just like, what?
One question.
Oh, I can save some money. So
we're energy nerds.
that term was used, and I see that. And so I appreciate it helps. Because here's the thing, as Oncor, we're in I heard you bring up Sierra Club. Some people don't think we do enough. We don't do enough in incentivizing energy efficiency. And then some people feel like we shouldn't be doing as much as we're doing, and we shouldn't be having a cost recovery factor. So it's like, we're like right in the middle. And the thing about us, at the end of the day, I care about savings. So my interest is your interest. I want you to get the best possible deal, the best possible product that's going to bring about the best savings for me. And so I don't care who you choose, what company you use, because at the end of the day, as long as that company is a part of my program, I can incentivize it, but I want to be able to maximize that incentive. And so working, you have I like to call us an independent advisor. I don't care who the service provider is, but I can help you, and I can talk to you about, yeah, you might not want to do that, especially, I know this is a solar group, because solar service providers, they are the worst. They're the new insurance salesmen, right? And I've had to kick a few companies out of our program.
Sure.
For misleading customers, for some bad practices and things that, and then they try to go start up another company and come back. And like, nope, that's the same. You're
I
part of
can't
the same
remember
company.
the statistics. It's been a while since I've been with the company, but our customer call center down in Waco, I think half of their volume comes from,
On blue sky days.
you know, yes, on a blue sky day. So not when, grid's in trouble.
Yeah.
But half of their volume is from people who, didn't understand or didn't do enough research or just tried to buy something off the shelf or were actively misled. And again, Oncor is usually just the messenger. They've got nothing to do with the topic
Right.
that's being discussed.
I've my previous solar program manager, he'll get calls and people like, where's my incentive? And he'd be like, I don't even know who you are. Like, I don't even have your address. I don't know anything about your address that's showing up as a project. I don't know. I know nothing about you and know nothing about your project because we deal with the service provider. So if the service provider hasn't entered that information in, and what they do is they say, yeah, I'll get you the solar and then I'll get you a $9,000 incentive doc check from Oncor and it's gonna pay down the cost and we never hear about it. And that happens more often than I would like to admit. And so any help, I appreciate this group, but if there's no regulations around those guys, right?
Something needs to be done.
There's
They're
some.
trying, yeah, they're starting to, but how long have we been doing solar now? Our program is over 10 years. So, it's starting now, but we're still dealing with the ramifications of it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank y'all.
I have a question. I have a question. Hello?
I don't think, let me make sure there's none for the group.
Yeah, I had a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I have a Carrier Infinity air source heat pump. It's been about 10 years old. Is there an incentive to upgrade that? Because it's electric. It's electric.
Yes. Yeah, so I think some of the examples, I think one of them was, no, you're good. One of them was heat pump to heat pump. So it's, again, if it's old and it's using a lot of electricity, you're gonna put in a new one, it will work. We can give an incentive for it.
Great.
But let's talk about it. Contact, you'll see a service provider, Tallulah Matthews, on the list. Tallulah Matthews, you can give her a call, tell her you were at this meeting, and she'll walk you through and she'll be able to see if that does qualify.
Okay, thanks.
All right, if anyone's got anything, last chance, I'm gonna go ahead and call that a wrap for this month's meeting. And thank you all very